Hi, thanks for being here today. I'm Tonja Walker, and this is One Day to Love. I have a fantastic guest for you today. Back in Connecticut, I was involved in several different community things, and one of the things I was involved with was a group called Unity. And there was a couple there that was amazing. They were amazing. Uh, Lucie Arnaz was there, and she was married to a man named Larry Luckinbill. And I looked him up recently and saw that he'd written a book called Effective Memories. And I'd seen him perform just once at this retreat that we all went on. And I was blown away. He had done a one-man show of Clarence Darrow, and he only did a few scenes from it for us, but I was amazed. And so when I read his book, I wanted him to know that I read it, that I knew it, and it was important to me that he understand that it was a treat and that I learned a lot and that I have great respect for him. And that's why I'm bringing him to you today. This is a man who loves acting. He loves social justice. He loves Lucie Arnaz. He loves performing. He loves his family. And you're going to love him. So stay tuned for Larry Luckinbill. I have to tell you, I was on vacation, as you're going to know, and there's a couple glitches in here where the sound went out a little bit, but it's going to be just great. And I'm going to get Lucy and he back on the show with me to talk about their incredible 40-year marriage. But right now, I'll introduce you to a superstar, Larry Luckinbill. First, I want to welcome you to the show, Larry Luckinbill. It's an
Thank you.
honor to have you on One Date to Love with me. I have been reading your book for an entire week, every single day, several parts over and over. I've learned a lot. I've learned a lot about you. I've learned a lot about your life, and I've learned a lot about your talent, which is extraordinary. And I'm 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 almost in tears. I am so impressed with the things that you've been able to accomplish in your life. I really am. I knew Lucy, and that's been a huge gift to me, but I
Thank
really wasn't that familiar with you.
you. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
So where you started from and where you ended up,
I
no
know.
wonder it was time to write a book.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And the the arc of the book was something I had to grow into as I was writing it. It took me 10 years to write this.
I can imagine.
And it was it was difficult because I told the truth and
You
especially
certainly did. You
about my
certainly
family.
did.
You know.
The way that you were so transparent about what happened in your family and your dad's alcoholism and the fighting
Yeah.
in the family and the craziness there,
Yeah.
and then your incredible sense of humor that seemed to have been just God-given and sort of constructed by your imagination, which is enormous.
It has to be God given because God knows it wasn't there. I mean, the situation wasn't funny,
No,
but I just couldn't keep from trying to lighten things up. And it's I mean, you say you're a class clown. Well, that was me,
yeah.
and I was with the nuns, which of course was not so
Yeah,
easy.
that's late. That was later on, and I love that nun that slapped you on the wrist and said something.
Oh,
I've got it all
oh
written
yes.
down.
She said, don't laugh at the words of poets.
Exactly. The
Yeah.
and that was and if you know
Poets matter,
words
words matter, and
and
if
how
we don't
important,
know how to communicate, we're,
right?
we're not worth much.
And if you could communicate, that was huge. I mean, that was going to
Yeah.
make you a brilliant, bright, successful person, which obviously it did.
And
You know,
all acting is simply communication. It's simply reaching into the other person and letting them see and feel what that character you're doing is all about and what they're feeling. And um, and it takes a lifetime really to learn how to do that.
One
And
of the things I thought was incredible was your devotion to mentorship and your appreciation for mentorship and the
thank
different.
you for saying that, because that was something that grew upon me as I continued to write. I realized I wouldn't have been anybody if the mentors hadn't go this way,
Mhm,
and if I hadn't taken the advice.
mhm.
But uh, I was basically an altar boy all my life, and
Not really.
uh,
I wouldn't say that.
I see you've read the book.
I an altar point for this amount of time, but that's about it.
Yeah,
Oh my God.
but I've come back to that now.
Well, that's a good thing. That's a good thing.
Yeah.
Now the I've got so many notes. Let's see. I've got so many notes, I can't read them. I know that you really had decided that you were going to go into medical school, and
Yeah.
then you were going to then you went into the Army. One thing that I thought was really funny was when you were talking about when you were in medical school and they told you to solve for X.
Yes.
You are talking to a woman who hasn't been able to solve for X in her whole entire life.
I know. I know. I just picked up the New York Times today, and there was some story about solving for X. Because this is what all these engineering students and all of that who want to get, fancy money are jumped in and doing.
When it
And
comes to words and feelings and creativity and
yeah,
all of that, that's me. So when I was reading what you were writing, I was identifying 100%. And one of the reasons it took me so long is because I reread everything that you wrote about the parts that you played, especially your theater parts, your theatrical roles, and the way you prepared for them and the way you became them, and the way you inhabited these characters and how you found these characters. And I learned so much because I don't really know that much Shakespeare. I really don't. And you really get it. I mean, you really right in his book. I mean, you really you make a person want to go and learn about those plays and about
that's really fascinating. That's wonderful. I love hearing that, because one of the reasons I wrote this as I went along with it was to interest students, acting students, and anybody who wants to express themselves. I mean, you're expressing yourself right now with this show, and that's something that you really want and really like to do, and let yourself reach out to other people. You reaches out to them.
exactly.
The people who go into the theater are of two kinds. Some go into it they want to be in the movies and they want to be on TV and all that stuff. I wanted to be on stage acting other people, doing hard roles, very big roles, and trying to max them, trying to actually get away with it,
And you
And
did. And
yeah,
that was really something. Um, and when you
I tell
did,
my kids this, they're all, I call them pobres artistas, because they've all, they have all sort of tried to get into the arts, and they are all in the
well,
arts in some
Simon
way.
and Ben, I mean, they're very, very talented in what they're doing. And but I think all of your children have become. Tell the Joe Papp story.
What's
Everybody
going on?
thinks this Joe Papp story is the one where you
I
had,
can,
okay. Do you remember
oh
this?
yeah,
Yeah, you were
now
given
you're
this
stopping.
role and
Oh yeah.
everybody thought it was fantastic. And I would be thrilled to death if he put me in anything. And then all of a sudden you were let go. And you're like, what the heck happened? And I thought that was a true Hollywood story, even though it happened in New York.
Yeah, you mean getting the job and then getting kicked out.
Yeah, because he got this huge
Can you
donation.
hear me?
Yes.
Yes,
He got this,
yes,
yeah, he got this
and
big donation
yeah,
from this big
yeah,
donor.
yes, exactly right. And I'm not going to say who it was.
You didn't say
It
who it
doesn't-
was.
You know what? It doesn't matter.
No, it doesn't.
The everybody has a way, the way that when that they step on that road and they travel it, and if they travel it in good heart, that's where they ought to be. And there's going to be failure, and maybe lots of failure, but eventually you are going to succeed if you just keep remembering that whatever is in a human heart has to be freely given and not worry about getting the money and the name and all that stuff. I had to learn that.
You had an aversion. You had an aversion to the money, it seemed like. It's like you really didn't want to do, I really don't want to do. I mean, you didn't even watch I Love Lucy.
No,
Hello? I'm like, you meet Lucie Arnaz and you're like, yeah, you've got, yeah, your parents are famous. What else did they do? It was like, I was like, what are you talking about? And I was thinking from Lucy's perspective, that would be so attractive
yes,
to be
yes,
with
you're thinking ahead,
somebody
yes,
that was with you because they wanted to be with you, not because of who you were related to. Uh,
yes, that was exactly right, Tanya. I didn't know much about that. I really didn't know anything about her parents other than the names. But I saw this woman who was, well, you've read it. I mean, she was actually ready, even though she was only 28 years old and I was 45. She was ready for life and looking for something for her and be serious. And that I wasn't a Twinkie, and I've never been a Twinkie, never even liked Twinkies. I mean, I don't eat them.
I understand. Everybody likes them, but nobody's supposed to eat them. They're the only thing
Apples are
besides
better.
roaches that will last through the end of the world. Um, you know,
That's right.
yeah,
Roaches eating Twinkies.
exactly. Um, I I didn't remember that you had been married to Robin Strasser.
Right. But I know you know her.
Yeah, I sure do.
Okay.
Um, she was a friend of mine,
Yeah.
a good friend of mine. And then one day I went to the set. I was called in to work, and I was there for sweeps. I wasn't really under contract anymore.
Uh-huh.
And I had a scene with Robin, and she'd come in the morning and said that she wanted to say something different, and that I would have to say something different. And then she went to get her hair done. So we
Uh-huh.
didn't get to work out the details of it. And it actually turned into this we're shooting, and I talked to the director and I said, you're going to have to talk to her about this, because I don't know what I'm supposed to say, because I can't figure out how to fit into what she's saying without looking like a fool. So if you could figure that out and get back to me, that would be great. And I didn't hear anything, so we're shooting. And
Yeah.
so I hadn't seen her get mad at anybody before, and she wasn't happy with me. And I thought, wow, if she was the sweetest person ever, but she had a streak in her, and I'm sure people would probably say that about me too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but I think she must have been in a lot of pain, because you guys seem to be so happy, and then you just weren't, and you were going through those I'm a hunk growing pains. I mean, that's what happens. We all fall in love with everybody that we're put opposite for the when we're young in acting, I think.
Yes. Yeah.
I fell in love with every actor on the show that I was on, the first one,
Wow.
and I thought it was real every time.
Yes. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then and then all of a sudden, it was like they put me in another storyline, and he didn't look as good as he used to, but this new one really looked great, and
Yeah.
I finally learned that I needed to develop a little bit of technique that was technique as opposed to just, real butterflies for real, you know?
You remember I did a scene about that when I was on Secret Storm
Hmm.
and working with Gloria Monty, if you
Oh
remember.
my.
Yeah. And there was the opportunity there to fall in love with somebody that you shouldn't.
I'm
And
sure.
I said no. And I had to, give myself a little credit because I
Yeah.
wasn't in the habit of saying no.
Yeah. Well, you know, at the beginning, it's really hard. It's just, I was this little
Yeah,
girl from Maryland, you know, I didn't know anything. And I was thrown into Hollywood. I was 19 years old and I was by myself. And, you know, it was hard to hang on to your hat.
that's right. You had to learn technique. You had to learn that those things were dead ends, 99% dead ends. And by the time I got to the point where I was divorced and was learning the hard way, all those things,
Hmm.
I met Lucy.
I
And
love this story about how you met each other and you decided more or less to go the friend route, you know, like you were really being friendly with one another as
oh,
opposed to
yes,
jumping right into a relationship,
that's
which
right. We did.
which
We were both cautious because she had had a bad experience and I had just come out of a bad experience.
that was so smart
And yeah, and
and not easy to do. If you're
no,
really attracted to somebody, it's important to sort of, and by that age, I don't know if she knew, but you might have, that you do need to be a little more careful because if you do care about the person and you get involved with them too young after they've had some, or too early after they've had some really terrible experience, sometimes
well,
they call it rebound, but I just call it a Band-Aid person. And
right.
that doesn't really last, you know, and clearly you guys did it right.
Lucy was very aware of what the world had to thinking about her because of her mother and the family. And so she was very cautious about those things and very careful. And um, it's a big deal
Yeah.
because, there have been times in her life when she's done some fantastic thing on the stage and people will say, oh gosh, I sure love your mother. And that's all they say, which is, it's a downer.
Heck
But
yeah. Heck yeah.
I didn't have that problem because my mother never did anything.
Your mom survived
My,
and
my mother survived, and that was the
mhm,
best thing I could say for her.
yeah.
And she
And she
was
clearly
also,
loved her children, you know, and she put up
she
with it all.
never, she never gave up on any of her children. And there were four of us.
It's hard. It was so hard in those days for a woman to ever leave a husband. And there really wasn't any AA or Al-Anon or Coda or
There was AA, which has
it
started
had
in
it started. I know it was
the
50,
1930s, yeah.
30. Yeah.
And there was Al-Anon actually, and
Really?
she actually went times to that. And my father did not ever go to AA. He just didn't want to. Um, but I have to say something about my father and my mother both. When you're growing up in an alcoholic family, you as the older boy in that family, I was sort of in the middle between them when there were fights and stuff
Yeah.
like that. And I was supposed to be the one that sort of helped my mother deal with my father. And as you know in the book, there's serious results to that. But ultimately, I have to say that I came through this 10-year writing of this book with a very different opinion of both my mother and my father that I had when I was a little kid. And I think most people could say that when you grow up and I realized what what heroes they were, how they worked for their 4 kids, and how they clocked in at jobs they did not like and were not worthy of their intelligence, both of them.
Mhm.
And that's what was available for them in those days. And they stuck with it,
Yeah.
stuck with it.
Your aunt was very
And there came a
important.
time, like when I was in the working in a cannery in California. Yeah, she was
Right.
very forceful. Yeah, but I was working in the cannery, and I was a teamster. It was like it's a funny story
That
if
is
you
a funny.
remember.
I can't believe you were a Teamster.
I know. Well, I was a jitney driver,
Right.
so any driver is a teamster.
Teamster. Mhm.
And so how I got to be a teamster is funny, but I realized after a little bit of like one season of doing that, that I was making so much money. I didn't have to go back to college and study to be an actor or anything like that. And yet I chose the weirdos. I chose to go back to the to the to the pobres artistas who hung around and dressed funny, and all the girls had too much makeup and on their eyes and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I I went back to poverty basically, and I never minded that. My financial advisor used to laugh at me. He said, "You'd rather work for nothing, wouldn't you?" And I said, "Yes."
Well, it shows how your book talks about how many times you moved,
Yeah,
and
yeah, we did.
you moved here, and then you moved there, and then you lived in this room, and then you lived in that room, but you were always working.
Yes, I was always working. I
And
always managed to get something. Yeah,
yeah, you did always. And then there was something that you wrote. I want to find the right words for it. Um, and I never use notes when I interview people because I always know everybody.
yes,
But you had so many things that were interesting in your book that I had to write stuff down, and now I'm not really looking at it because I really don't normally do that. But the fact that you actually exercised with Jack LaLanne impressed the hell out of me, I gotta tell you.
Oh,
I've
really?
I couldn't believe it. I mean, I remember Jack LaLanne. I used to watch him on TV all the time, and he had the
Yeah.
dog. Remember the dog? Maybe
Yes.
you don't.
Yeah.
Did you meet him before he had his TV show?
He had a public access show.
Well, we watched it.
Yeah.
We
Yeah, I
watched
did too. I saw it on Sunday morning.
Yeah,
And
and that big dog would come in, and he was
yeah,
in the best shape. Oh my God. And he had
yes,
that one-piece suit on.
he had a leotard
Yeah, the whole thing
and
though.
ballet slippers.
Top to
And
bottom.
who did that
Yes.
to build you up? Yeah.
He was really something.
But he changed my life.
Well, I just couldn't believe it when you were talking about a person that was not using great big weights and not, all these different things you said before you said Jack LaLanne. So I
Yeah.
turned the page, right? And
Yeah.
and it said Jack LaLanne. I'm like, Jack LaLanne, like
Yeah.
I hadn't heard his name in such a long time. And
Yeah. Well, he
I'm
was,
glad you brought him up, and I'm glad I'm bringing him up. People today should look him up. He was miraculous. I remember when he put like a rope in his mouth and towed a barge.
yes.
This is
Yeah.
Jack LaLanne. It's
Well,
amazing.
it's in the book, and what happened was he said, "I'm going to do it next week on the show on Sunday," and he then got 3 rowboats, tied them in tandem, uh, handcuffed himself, and swam the Golden Gate from San Francisco to Marin County,
Oh my God. What a crazy
towing
man.
3 rowboats
Um,
and handicapped by handcuffs. I mean,
that's crazy.
and
It's like Houdini.
and he was all of his exercises were isometric.
Right.
He just worked with his own body, and he ate very healthily. And it's taken me a long time. I'm sort of back to that now. I just eat like Jack LaLanne, but at almost 90 years old, I'm not. I'm. I'm
Well,
not.
whatever you're doing, honey,
I'm
it's
not
working.
doing jumping jacks. Let's put it that way.
Whatever you're doing, it's working.
Okay.
I have so many things to say to you. I don't have enough time to say them all.
Well, we'll do this again.
I hope you will, because I just can't get over how many things I want to talk to you about.
Yeah,
Um,
I would like to read the one little tiny section, but we can do that later if you want
oh,
to
I'd
do it.
love that. I'd love that. So when you finally decided to get married and have children, you had children like this. You had lots of kids real quick with her.
Yes.
And you moved to Central Park,
Uh-huh.
and it sounds like you live with a bunch of famous people.
Oh, boy, yes. My God, that Meryl and Don, uh, uh, what's
All
her
these
name?
famous people live in that building. It was like, oh my God, I
Can't
can't believe
remember
it.
all these people.
Yeah.
B. Arthur lived there,
Wow.
Jane Pauley
Right.
and Gary.
It
Yeah.
was amazing. I was like, I didn't know there was a building like that. And
Oh,
then you worked together. You guys did I Do, and they're playing our song. And how was that? How was it to work with your wife like that?
I loved it, and
Yeah.
I believe she did too.
Yeah, I
And,
would have think
yeah,
so.
and but there came a time that after we had done, I don't know, 4 or 5 things together, uh, uh, 3 Broadway shows or 4 of them on the road, and a movie for CBS called The Mating Season.
Right.
That Lucy figured out that she better go out and do some things on her own, because she was they was sort of getting confused that we always had to work together.
Uh-huh.
And that, so, and, we worked all of our lives basically but between Hollywood and New York. And we did travel back and forth just because that's where the work was.
I know.
And yeah, and you know what it's like. And
I do. I actually like that. I like going back and forth and working in different, LA, New York thing. What I don't like now is that I'm in Palm Springs and I feel like
of
I'm
course,
withering away.
by that time we had 5 children, my older 2 and our 3. And we were dealing with all of their needs um,
That's a lot.
yes. And I had joint custody, so that was something that was very
I
important
was
to me.
really grateful for you that you got to do that, because it's not an easy thing,
It is not, but it was. And, I think the kids, my 2 boys suffered a bit from back and forthing.
Everybody
But
does. Everybody
on the
does.
other hand,
There's no neat way to do this that works. I mean, it's not supposed to be
it's
all
not
nice
easy.
like that.
Hmm?
Well, I loved the reading about the wedding, and I thought it was really incredible. That was Monet's, what do you call it? Monet's luncheon on the grass. I love how you put that. I could see it in my mind's eye, the whole picture of everything.
Yes, yeah. It was in
Sounded-
Kingston, New York, in an
yeah,
apple.
and I know that area so well. I lived in Ridgefield, Connecticut for a long, long
Yes,
time.
as I know.
And I moved there when I was single, and I bought my own house. I was 32. Um, I wanted my own home. I wanted my own car, my own 401k, my own dog, my own cat, and everything else before I got married. And I did that. And and then I got married, and I gave a lot of that up. Um and now my husband's been gone 5 years. And
Ah,
um
sorry about that.
thanks. Yeah, he got cancer, and I took care of him for 4 years, and then he died. And then I moved to Palm Desert because I couldn't afford a house in LA that I would live in. And
Yes.
it was
Well,
just
Palm Desert is an okay place to live.
yeah, it is. It's just that then the pandemic happened immediately, and there was
So we were
nothing,
locked up.
nothing and no one for 2 years. Yeah, nothing.
Wow.
And the blessing was my children were in college and they got to stay with me there.
Yeah.
But I'm just now, getting out to meet people again and to work and to see things and to,
Well, you're not far away
I
from
know,
us, and we're not far away from you, so
I know. Well,
we'll have
I
to,
really want to do this when I've got a better, uh, connection, because I don't think I have the best connection. So,
right
uh,
now, it's not working too well, but that's okay.
yeah, but I will, I'll call you if it's okay. I know you're really booked because you've got all these people that want to talk to you.
We'll make time.
I'll
We'll
be
make
back
time.
on Tuesday, and I would love to do this next Wednesday if you're around, Wednesday or Thursday. So I'll call Kate, or not call, I don't have anybody's number, but I'll email Kate
Yeah,
and see
check with Kate.
if I can redo this. I'd like to get both of you together if you're interested in doing that, because I think your love story is very encouraging to people.
Well,
And I do
should
talk
be-
about that a lot
yeah.
on my show. So I want to hear about working with William Shatner. What was that like?
Oh, it was. His ego is as big as the earth itself. But on the other hand, he's a very nice man.
He
And
is, I
he's
know.
very
I worked with him too. That's
kind,
why.
and he's very,
Yeah, I worked
huh?
with him too. I worked with him too. I
You
keep,
did?
yeah,
Yeah.
I did. Yeah, I was on uh TJ Hooker.
Yes, right. That was his show.
Yeah, and I
Yeah.
keep getting, and I'm still getting residual checks for 32 cents.
Right. Well, please put that in the bag.
Huh?
Please put it in the bag. Save those 32 cents.
Save
They
those
pile up.
32 cents. It
Yeah.
started out much bigger, but it was a long, long time
I
ago.
know. I know.
Long,
I
long
know.
time ago.
No, I liked Bill, and we had a great time. And it's interesting because when I got cast, it was one of the signal experiences of my life, because normally you go to a studio, you drive up, you try to get through the gate, and you go to park your car in some lot, and then you walk to the bungalow where they're going to talk to you. And this time I drove up to the gate at Paramount, and before the guard could stop me, even a golf cart came out and said, with the guy in it, and he said, "Mr. Luckinbill, leave your car right here. I'm going to take care of it. I want you to jump in here, and I'm going to take you to see Bill and Harvey." And so I did. We drove in, and it was an incredible meeting, because it's the first time in my life that everybody stood up and shook my hand when I walked in. Now that does not happen either. But then I got the offer right then, and they said, sleep over it, take it home, read it, reread it about. And I said, I thought I wanted to say I'm in, but I went home and slept on it and thought about it, and then I called the first thing in the morning and said I'm in.
Well, he had
And
seen you as Lyndon Johnson.
and Bill said we have to talk about your character, and let's have dinner or lunch. And so I said okay, and he called and he said let's meet at such and such a place in Santa Monica. And I got there, and it was a juice bar. We
A
stood up
juice bar.
drinking juices and talking about the character of Sybok. And he said, "Well, how do you see him?" And I said, I see him, huh? I see him as Lennon." He said, John Lennon?" I said, "No, no, Vladimir Lenin." And he said, "Oh, how is that?" And I said, "Because Lenin started out with the greatest desire in his heart to make Russians free. And as state socialism took over, he became a monster. And I think Sybok starts out with a great intention to make everyone free of pain and better off in their world. But then he steals the Enterprise and takes people hostage and starts having to fight back and all of that stuff. And so Bill said, okay, all right, that's Lennon. Yeah, Lennon. But let's don't talk about it, really, okay? In the set, I don't want people to think we're making a movie about commies. You're safe. You're safe with me, Bill.
Is that the part where you're talking about there's a freedom from, you were talking to a Russian person, I think, or a Chechen person.
Polish.
Yeah, and they were saying that your freedom from something or freedom of
Freedom
something.
too.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, and basically both freedoms, you're indebted to someone. You're either indebted to the state or you're indebted to the person that you're getting the money from so that you can do what you want to do.
You really got it. You really
Yeah.
got it. Oh, I'm so happy.
Yeah, I got it. All right. I
Yeah.
love your book. I mean, I thought it was wonderful, but I thought it was really intelligent, and I don't get to read anything that's that intelligent very often, honestly. And so it turns me on. I like it a lot.
Well, I didn't know what I was doing. I just wrote down.
Oh, I don't believe you. I don't believe you for a second. So when you did these one-man shows, the Clarence Darrow and the Hemingway and the Lyndon Johnson, and how long did it take you to put something like that together each time?
Well, I'll say this first of all. Bill Shatner cast me because he said he was in some hotel somewhere on a
And
Sunday night.
yeah, he'd seen the Lyndon Johnson one.
And he saw me play Lyndon, and he decided that was the guy for Sybok. But Lyndon came to me out of the blue from David Susskind, who was my Dutch uncle, the guy that always gives you a hard knuckle rub on your head and tells the truth to you. He kept saying, you're unemployed, so do this piece of crap that I'm giving you. And I was always telling him, no, that's a piece of crap. I'm not doing it, David. But now he comes to me with Lyndon, one-man show. I'm alone on stage. It's 69 pages. And he wants me there at Christmas, and it's now a week from Christmas. And I turned him down.
Yeah.
And he said, why? You're unemployed, aren't you?
Wow.
Yes, which I was.
Yeah, but 69 pages in a week it's hard when it's all,
It's insane. So when we got to the rehearsal, he said, it's too long, right? And I said, yes, it is. And I said, what you need is something around 40 pages. And he said, cut it, you do it. So I did.
It said you cut it to 49.
And
you wrote that you cut it to 49, so you didn't exactly give yourself a break.
You've stopped on me.
I said you cut it to 49, but you really didn't cut it that much.
Yeah.
I
cut it to about 40 pages.
Okay.
And then I had to go to the film and television thing in New York, which is now what is it called, Lucy?
Equity?
The whole,
Is it Paley Center? The Paley Center?
Anyway, it's where they have a repository of all the old films and everything.
Paley Center.
The Paley Center, yeah.
Yeah. So I went there and I studied Lyndon for 5 or 6 days, every single thing about him. And then we went up to Toronto into a studio, and we rehearsed in New York, but then we went up there and we filmed it in just a few days. And it was incredible because I had the makeup for Lyndon was 4.5 hours first.
It was amazing.
Yeah, but it was amazing. And it really did something to me. I fought it. I said, I don't want to do makeup. I can make my face like Lyndon. And David said, I believe you can, Larry, but let's just try it. So I'm sitting in the chair They turned away from the mirror in the rehearsal studio. The guy's working, he does the thing, and they turned the chair around and said, stand up. And I did. And I was Lyndon Johnson.
Yeah.
And I thought, okay, I can do this. I can do this.
I can imagine
So,
that would be an internally
thing,
transformative feeling.
every 2:30 in the morning. Yes, it was. It was. We worked 10, 12 hours a day. And it was, and I never got tired. I never got tired because that work was so.
You love what you were
intense.
doing. Yeah,
Well, I was meant to do it. I was
definitely,
meant to do it.
definitely.
And afterwards, there was a rough cut, and David said, come and see it. And I said, David, could I bring my mother? And he said, well, I mean, it's a rough cut. I don't want anybody else seeing it because you know how they talk. And I said, David, I am the only person in show business that my mother knows. And she's not going to tell anybody.
No.
And when it was finished, he said, well, Mrs. Luckinbill, how do you like your boy? And she said, I think he did a very nice job. And I think, Mr. Susskind, that this is a wonderful piece and that it should go out to every school in America. And he was so happy at what she said that he started to do a dance, a hora. He was saying,
Oh, he did the horror.
we're going to win an Emmy. We're gonna win an Emmy. But he never got to see it on the air.
He died, didn't he?
Yeah, he did.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And he talk about mentors. That was a guy that just pulled me out of the doldrums and said, go do this. And it changed my life.
Yeah.
Well, because after that, I did 3 more. I wrote 3 more. Clarence Darrow, Teddy Roosevelt, and Ernest Hemingway. And I did those for 35 years. And I did them because of what I found out was my real need in this world was to find a way to express social justice.
Yeah, I got that from the book, that was
And
important to
these
you.
4 men were all about that.
Mm-hmm.
And they were great Americans, and that's what I called them. And I mean, I wish we could look at today's world and see the same depth of care about what we're supposed to be doing as Americans.
I agree. It's very sad.
Are you there?
Yeah, it's very sad. I
Yeah.
can't stand it. It's terrible.
You're stuck.
No, I'm here.
Yeah. Okay, I got you.
Okay, I'm going around like this. I'm wondering. I have an editor. He'll be able to fix it, but I still
Yeah, he'll fix it.
But I still need to do it with you at home because I have a much better setup. But I just wanted to make sure I got you in. It was incredibly important to me.
Right.
So
Well, you have read and remembered pieces of the book that just thrills me because I know a lot of people read it and they go on and talk about it, but it's impossible to know that they have read the whole thing, and that's kind of an impossible request to people. It's a big book, but on the other hand, when someone has read it and remembered it as well as you do, it gets really exciting to me.
well, it was exciting to me, and I was nervous as hell because I wanted to make sure that I could make sure you knew. You know?
Well, you certainly you have, and this is a long term. This is the long game. This keeping a book out there. It's now on the bestseller list with
Yay.
Amazon, and it stayed there for weeks and weeks. And yeah, I'm really in shock because I didn't think about that. I thought this would be a book that maybe my kids would read. Maybe Lucy would read it.
Well, I think you're going to get a lot more response than that. And this guy here, this is such a gorgeous picture of you. And I
Yeah.
don't remember this show. This was your TV series that I don't remember. What were
Oh, the
the years
Delphi
of,
Bureau.
what
Yeah,
were the years of that?
74 and 5.
Okay, so I was 14 and 15. I was probably watching Laugh-In or something.
Yeah.
I wasn't watching any nighttime dramas or
It
anything.
was such an interesting show. I was an operative for the U.S. government, uh, troubleshooter,
Mhm.
but I had only one talent, and that was I had a photographic memory.
Right, I saw that in there. When you first said I had a photographic memory, I'm thinking, is he talking about himself or is he talking about his character? And then I figured out it was about your character. I
Well,
wish
but
they did that show back. That sounds like a
I
fun.
also have a photographic memory.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, I didn't know it until I did the show, but
So
I
you're
do.
memorizing 69 pages of dialogue in a week.
Yes. Yeah, yeah,
And you're like, something up here is still working
yeah.
well.
This is how you do it. You take your cue card and you put it over your line and you say, well, this is the cue. Okay, now that's my line. Now that's the cue. Now that's my line.
That's right.
That's how it works.
Yeah, I was on soap operas for a long, long time. And
Yeah,
the longest scene I ever had was 65 pages. And we had to shoot that in one day.
you disappeared again.
65 pages.
Yep.
We had 65
Yeah,
pages and
we'll be back.
we had to shoot it in one day.
5
But
pages?
65. But we got to
Oh,
stop.
60.
It wasn't like
Yeah,
where you're
yeah,
getting in
yeah.
front of all these people and you've got to do this whole thing live.
Was that one life
That was on General Hospital.
or General Hospital? Out here in Hollywood.
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah. So
Yeah.
you a lot of that.
I love to work. And I really related to you in your book about that. I knew
Oh.
and I could tell and I could feel it in my heart how much you love to work.
Yes,
And
I'd rather work than eat, actually.
well, it's been really hard for me since Ed died. I haven't been able to get myself back. You know what I mean? Because
Yeah.
first of all, there was no door to even walk in.
Yeah,
And but I do have a show called Destination Heaven that I just did that's out on Pure Flix.
yeah.
And then I have a movie that actually happened, and then now I'm gonna go get a real agent. Those are jobs I got myself. I wanted to make sure I had some recent tape. I wanted to make sure I was the right weight. I wanted to make sure I was the right height. I wanted to make sure I had the right, not height, but my hair and everything. So we're good. I'm back. I'm gonna get it back together. But I love people and I love talking to people. And this show was supposed to be when I first wanted to do a sitcom about dating.
Yeah,
And I wanted everybody's funny dating stories because I have so many of my own.
yeah.
I got into this online dating thing and it's just a riot. It's
I guess so. It sounds very depressing to me.
it is depressing. So I thought we should do a funny story about it, a funny show about it. And I'm still going to do that. But then I had a mentor that said that I really should make it more soapy. And so I started interviewing people, and some of them were from daytime. And I called it One Day to Love because that sounded like One Life to Live. And it sort of had a soap sound. But that's really not what I want to do. But I do think it's important to talk about love stories. I think it's important to talk about how people meet one another, how people
Yes.
stay married, how people work through problems, how people deal
Yeah.
with the death of somebody that they are married to,
Yes.
and other things that they love. So that's what I tend to talk to on this show about.
This time in our history, it's more important than ever that we connect. You know, there's a thing that E.M. Forster said in one of his books. He was a closeted gay man in the Victorian era, and he wrote Passage to India and all those books.
Yeah.
But one of the things that I always say out of one of his books is the thing that we must do is only connect. Only connect. Think about it. Because we don't very often. We have lives that I have a lot of friends, but we don't connect. That is to take their what's going on within them really as important as what's going on within us, within each of us.
And how can we be of service?
Huh?
How can we be of service?
Yes, yes. And I think marriage is really just that. You think of the other person first,
Mhm.
and you put yourself second, and you are a partner and you're equal.
Yeah, that's what we did. It's what I did, and it was
Yeah,
important.
you did that. Yeah.
One thing we
Well,
haven't talked about is boys in the band.
oh yes, is that something I did? Yeah.
Yes, and that took a lot of guts.
Well,
We're
everybody says
the two
that.
straight guys, and you were one of the straight men in the thing.
Yeah, just Cliff and I.
And then I remember the cigarette commercial that you lost because they said fags don't smoke our fags or something like that. Some terrible, horrible, please don't kill me for saying it, but that's what they said to you, which was
When
disgusting.
they told me that, I said, "Who wrote that copy?"
Awful, awful.
Yeah.
But the boys in the band became this huge thing. Huge.
It was 3 years of my life,
Yeah.
and 3 years of that to live in all the way today, because there's almost not a day goes by that some guy doesn't come up to me and say, "You saved my life," or "Thank you for doing that," because they were able to see themselves as real humans trying to earn a living, trying to be in love, trying to live life as they knew they had to. And the thing about the movie that we did was suffused with what is called the closet,
Mhm.
which is that terrible place that people had to hide in
Mhm.
so that they wouldn't get killed or they wouldn't lose their job or their parents wouldn't find out. And uh, when they did the revival here in New York, that all of those actors that they hired were all gay, but they were also basically out even before the movie. So the the sense of fear that existed in the closet was not in this new version. And it couldn't be because they just didn't experience it that way. But our cast did. And when I went to the revival because a friend suggested that I do. I wasn't going to go, but he said, "You owe it to the other guys." And I said, "Okay, yeah, I do." So I got to the red carpet and, my last 3 seconds of fame. And, and they said, "What did you think about it? What a brave man you were to go out there as a straight man and do that." And I said, "No, the brave people were the gay men who outed themselves in order to do this play, in order to do a play that opened the door to the closet and ignited actually the whole gay revolution." And
I mean, don't you know someone, at least
Mark
one
Crowley
person?
I
I
knew
know
him for
so
60
many.
years.
I know
He
many
was my
people.
little brother.
Right, right. My uncle, I have an uncle who I think I'll never know, but all I know is he wasn't around our family much,
Yeah.
and he had a roommate,
Yes. Yep.
and it's a sad, sad thing
That he had to hide.
that nobody could talk to him. He wouldn't talk to anybody about anything like that.
Yeah, that's so
And
sad.
it makes me sick, it really makes me sick.
Yeah.
And when you said that, I think you said in the book that there was a minister or a priest that you asked about, and they said, love is love.
No, that was one of my teachers at Catholic University.
Yeah, that was great. I mean, that's the truth. And that was beautiful, the way you said that. I thought that was right on. And
Yeah, his daughter,
apropos at the time, it's hard to find people from that period of time that were very open-minded.
Yes. Well, this guy was one of the best teachers at Catholic U in the drama department, Bill Graham. And I'm very familiar with his family and his daughter, Laura. And that's who he was talking to. She had got an assignment in high school, write something about homosexuality. And she did not know anything about it.
Mhm.
And Bill, who was always carrying an armload of books around and busy, always running to a class or something, he stopped on the step, turned around to her and said, "Love is love," and left. And she
Like,
never
that's all I
forgot.
have to say, and that's all you have to know.
That's all you have to know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was
So
beautiful.
I think, digging up all that stuff in my own life was very, very difficult and heart-wrenching stuff.
I can't believe you did it. I mean, you're so, it's unusual. It's really, really rare to read an autobiography that's this detailed about so many private things that go
Yeah.
back so far. And
Yes.
um, that's why I honor you, and I wanted to make sure you knew.
Thank you.
I was really moved by it,
Okay.
and it's an honor to meet you and talk to you again, and I hope I get to
Yeah.
see you again, and I really, really want to talk to you guys again. Maybe we can do it together, and after I edit this, we'll make sure that we have everything we need.
I'm sure that Lucy would like to be here too,
Yeah,
sitting
that would
sitting
be
next to me.
that would be a
And,
delight for me.
and I would like that too.
I've interviewed her before. She's a riot. She's got more energy than anybody I've ever met. And
Yes.
and she's just so multi-talented and multifaceted and class
Yeah.
personified. That's all I can say.
He never stops.
I know. And I could hear her words when you would say she had said something. Um, you said, I think you were having a meeting with her, a date with her, and you said, I don't think I'm your type. Is that what
Yeah.
it was?
Yes, that's it.
I don't think I'm really your type. And she said, well, I didn't think I was really your type. And
Yes.
you're like, really? And she said, really? And you're like, you want to be courted? She said, what? And she said, yes. I could just hear the whole thing. And I was like, this
Yeah.
is the way it's supposed to be. This is it.
It was at Ted Hooks backstage.
Yes, I was like, people are talking. This is the way people should talk to one another. This
Yes.
is
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Straight up.
And I bought out the flower store the next
I
week.
saw that. I thought that was so brilliant. I love that. All the Hawaiian flowers. I
Yeah.
would love to see a picture of those. You need a picture of those. It's too bad you don't have one.
Oh
She
yes. Yeah.
she probably does. I love the pictures in the book too. I mean, it's wonderful to see all of those pictures in the book.
Yeah. You see what a nerd I was.
You were pretty heavenly hot. You was what you were. You were
Oh, okay.
hottie in some of these pictures. You don't have any bad pictures in here. That's the good read. That's what you get when you're the author. You get to pick what pictures they put in the book.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I got other pictures.
Okay. I want to thank you so
I
much for this.
have another book following this one
You do
called
not.
Finding Home.
You do?
So far, Finding Home. And it's
You
all
have
of the
another book?
coming. And it's all the stuff that Lucy and I edited out of this book.
Okay.
It had just about my acting career and all of the adventures that I've had with the State
Oh,
Department in Africa and Italy and the Amazon and
awesome.
all of these
Awesome.
places I've gone and
I love
wanted to live forever.
That's
And so that's
fantastic.
the theme of this next book.
Awesome. Okay. Well, that'll be exciting. I'll
Yeah.
let you go now. It's been about an hour and I've got to get this to my editor and I just want to thank you so much. I'm sorry that I'm home at my mom's house and it's not exactly the best quality, but it will be great when I get home and I'll make sure that this works. And
Okay.
thank you so very, very much. Very, very much for your time.
Thank you, Tonja. This was
I'm
wonderful.
honored and happy, so happy. And I'm glad it's doing so well. And if I can help, I will. Everybody needs to read this book. It's brilliant. Really brilliant. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you.
you. God bless.